Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video about my labor and delivery story about this little guy right here. So we're going to be talking about you, Rye. My postpartum must-have, my essentials. I kind of mentioned a little bit about my labor, but I didn't go into detail because I didn't want to save it for a later video. So here we go. Before I even go into the whole labor and delivery story, I'm going to give a little bit of a backstory about what was going on in my life at the time that I gave birth to Rylan. So we found out probably when I was about 6 or 7 months pregnant that the lease was going to be terminated and there will be no renewal of the lease at our last place. So we had a lot of different challenges that kind of prevented us from finding another place. So about 8 months pregnant, after not being able to find anything, after exhausting all options, we found ourselves basically homeless. So at about 8 months pregnant, we packed up everything, we put everything into storage, found an extended stay that we were going to potentially probably live for the next 6 months. But that was the plan because we figured we had these challenges. Nobody's going to rent to us. Nobody's going to lease to us. So we're going to have to figure out something. And at the time, I wasn't working, of course. I was 8 months pregnant. I had been laid off back in June of last year. And I was on unemployment for a little bit of time. And then, of course, that ran out about November. So I was just in a horrible fit. I tried to stay as positive as I could be. Tried to just remember that things will work out in the end. That this is not forever. This is all temporary. We were at a pretty nice extended stay at first. But that did get to be a little bit expensive, and there was a lot of different issues with that extended stay, so we had to go to another one. And the one we went to was like this very dark room. It was just very depressing, and it was hard to stay, you know, upbeat, stay positive when everything looked so bleak, literally. So that's what was happening at the time of my life that I delivered. So when it happened, so Friday, January 12th, 2018, at 3 a.m., my mom had just dropped my brother off at Target. He goes to work the early morning shift at Target. So she had just dropped him off, and I called her, and I'm like, these cramps are not getting any better. I don't know if it's just gas or what it is, but it's not getting better. This was about 3 a.m., so she came home. And she's like, well, do you think that you're in labor? I was like, I'm not sure, because at this time, I was having a lot of Braxton Hicks contractions that meant absolutely nothing. So we weren't sure if it was just, you know, Braxton Hicks gas or the real deal. About 4 a.m., we realized that the contractions, well, the gas pains or the false contractions were getting a little bit stronger, and they were coming closer together. So we decided that it's probably the best to just go ahead and go to the hospital. Mind you, we did have Rylan with us as well. But at this time, we were thinking, no, you're probably not in labor. They'll probably just send us home. My due date was February 4th. This is January 12th. So we thought maybe this is not the real deal. We got into the car. I didn't have a hospital bag, mind you. I mean, my life was just pretty much crazy at this point. I had a plan to get all this stuff from my hospital bag by the time, you know, February 4th. And none of that happened. I did have a bag, and I had a few items in there. But I didn't take this bag with me because I knew that I wasn't going to be giving, you know, birth to this baby. I'm like, I'm not giving birth to this baby. I'm not bringing him back to an extended stay. I refused for that to happen. Like, I had to say so in the whole thing. So that was just my whole thing. My baby is not coming until February 4th. He will have to stay in until then because I refuse to bring him back to this extended stay. I can't do that to him. We got into the car about 4 o'clock. Luckily there's no traffic, because usually getting to the hospital it's like a 30 to 45 minute trek if it's a lot of traffic. So we didn't have a lot of traffic, so we got to the hospital about probably about 15 to 20 minutes. We got to the hospital. Go into the hospital, get signed in, all of that good stuff. And I realized, I think while I was in the car, I think I had started to leak a little bit. We're walking to the room where they're going to check everything. I started to leak even more. It was horribly disgusting. So we got to the room. My water had broken at that point. We were pretty certain of it because extra fluid started coming out. So I got changed into the hospital gown, and it was pretty much go time. And I was like, well, I'm not prepared to have no baby right now. I'm not mentally prepared, nor was I ready to have a baby. I didn't even have my hospital bag. Like, I'm not ready to have this baby. Like, that was just my mindset the whole time. And I was kind of upset to learn that the doctor... Yeah, I was kind of upset to learn that the doctor that I was used to going to, you know, wasn't going to be delivering my baby. It would be somebody else at the practice. And I know they said, you know, to get familiar with all the doctors there because you really don't know who's going to honestly deliver your baby. But I really wanted the doctor I had been seeing the whole time to deliver the baby. I just think, you know, it would have been a much better experience had she been there because she knows me. She got changed into my hospital gown. I just climbed into bed and I pretty much let them do whatever they needed to do. They hooked up the machine to monitor his heart rate. Nurse came in to check my cervix. I was only 4 centimeters. I checked to make sure that my water had actually broken, so they went ahead and did that test as well. And test confirmed that yes, my water had broken. Pretty much when you're giving birth or anything like that, you pretty much sign your life away. So they brought in even more paperwork for me to sign. So we pretty much just played the waiting game, waiting on little Rylan. Contractions were getting stronger and they were getting closer together. It was very manageable, but I was afraid that, you know, what if this pain gets worse and it'll be too late for me to get an epidural. So I went ahead and called the nurse in. I'm like, what are my pain options? What is there for me to help with the pain in case this gets stronger? The nurse came in, told me about the different pain options. I went with the epidural. About 7:30, they came in and put in the epidural. It was like, I don't know how long it took for the person to get there, but at this point the contractions were even closer together. And I'm like, if you would have come just a little bit sooner, you know, I wouldn't be here trying to have contractions while you're putting this doggone epidural in. That's the worst, because it's kind of like, okay, I gotta breathe through this contraction, I gotta worry about this man behind me putting this thing, you know, in my back, I don't want to get crippled, you know, all this stuff. And I'm like, come on. If he would have just came a little bit sooner, we would have had enough time between contractions, you know, for all of that to go flawlessly. But of course, that's not how that went at all. Since my GBS status was unknown, they had to give me penicillin through an IV. After the epidural and the penicillin, I was about 6 or 7 centimeters. It was getting really close to go time. About 8:30, I think, Ryan, that's my children's father, he came. My doctor finally arrived, and when he arrived, I was 10 centimeters. As soon as he checked me, he's like, oh yeah, the baby's here, it's time. And I was like, what do you mean? I didn't even get a chance to take a nap. I didn't get a chance to, you know, reflect on what's about to happen. I'm about to become a mother of 2. This is a lot. I was like, I didn't have none of that time to kind of get prepared mentally for what was getting ready to happen. 10 centimeters, the epidural was working a little too good. I wasn't feeling any pain. I wasn't feeling any pressure at all. So they were like, it's time for you to push. And I'm like, well, I can't push because I can't feel anything. So they had to turn the epidural down. I was like, what's the point of getting an epidural if I'm going to feel this pain anyway? The biggest problem with the way that I was laboring was that I was flat on my back and they refused to let me sit up. At this point, it's like I'm trying to breathe through contractions. I'm trying to hold my leg, trying to push the baby out. It was a lot. It was too much. And at this point, I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to push anymore. I'm through. I don't know what y'all going to have to do to get this baby out, but I give up. I quit. I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to do this. Give me a C-section, order me one on the Ross, because that's it for me. I can't do it. I was just overwhelmed. I was tired. I was cranky. I was hungry. I was every emotion in the book at this point. And I was completely and utterly over. And the doctor, you know, wasn't very helpful at all. Wasn't very nice to me, he was kind of like he was in a rush, like he had other things to do, had better things to do, you know, kind of rushing the whole process. So after giving up, you know, and they said, okay, let's take a break, let's go back. Even though I was doing really good to like push and things like that, you know, it wasn't going the way I guess the doctor wanted it to go. Brought out the forceps and all that good stuff to help push it along. And then once they brought out the forceps, guess what they did? They sit me up in bed. I'm like, I begged for you guys to sit me up, and now you guys want to sit me up? Really? So anyway, I sit up in bed. And I guess with the help of the forceps, I was able to push the baby out. Rylan came out yelling. Like, he came out yelling, like screaming for his life, like somebody was chasing after him in the womb, and he needed help like yesterday. So he came out yelling at 10:35 a.m. And I remember just bawling like the big old baby that I was. Like, I was crying because it's like it took so much for me to push this baby out and to hear him, see him. You know, it just was the most beautiful moment of my life. Rylan was pretty healthy to be born at 36 weeks. Praise the Lord, because we were really worried about that, being that it was 36 weeks, that he was going to be coming a little early, that he wasn't ready. But Rylan showed us that, you know what, I'm fine, I'm healthy, we're good to go. So because he was so healthy, he was able to come right on to me and do skin to skin, which was amazing. I was able to check all of his vitals while he was on me, and they pretty much said that he looks really good for a 36-weeker. Once we did a little skin to skin contact, they then took him over there to the little baby bed so they can do a thorough check up of him. I had a pretty bad tear just from the forceps, so while all of this was happening, I was getting stitched up. Rylan back over to me after his exam. They put him on my chest, and I was not feeling well at all. I felt like I was getting ready to die. They had this baby on me, and I could barely feel him. I could barely see anything. Things were going in and out. Everything was a blur. I was very dizzy. I vaguely remember saying, I was just saying it to anybody in the room, I don't feel well. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong right now. I remember that's the last thing I said. They not threw literally, but they gave Rylan over to my mom. My mom had no idea what was happening. They put the bed back. You know, I was all the way on my back again. They put the oxygen mask on. A bunch of people came, you know, in. They were checking to make sure my epidural was turned up. They were checking all of these things. I had this nurse talking to me. And I don't know if you guys know the show Reba, but she was kind of like Barbara Jean. So she was talking to me. She was like, okay, keep talking to me. Keep talking to me. And it was very vague at first. I'm like, yes, I'm still here. I was very weak. I was like, yes, yes. I was like, I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know if this is Jesus or what. But, you know, sorry for all the things I did in my life, you know. Please forgive me, let me in. We did the oxygen, we realized that I had lost a lot of blood. And at this point, I had lost so much blood that I would need a blood transfusion. There was no way that I was going to live without a blood transfusion. I'm just happy at that point that I spoke up and I knew that something was wrong and that I didn't let it just go on and kind of like, oh no, that's just normal. I'm glad that I said something, because I literally could have died if I hadn't said something, you know, a second later. That would have been my life. So I just want to tell you all to be an advocate for your health. Know when you don't feel well and to make sure that they really check it out. Because sometimes during labor and delivery, we're so focused on the baby that we don't focus on the mama sometimes. And we get kind of left out. Don't let yourself get let out if you know that you're not feeling well. Let somebody know so they can really take a look. And even if they take a look and they say nothing's wrong, say, I want a second opinion. I want to make sure that I'm good too. Because, you know, a healthy mama is a healthy baby. If I'm not healthy, I can't take care of the baby. And I want to be around to see my baby. It's a scary situation for me. I've never been in a situation like this. Like they say, birth is the closest that you'll ever come to death. And that was very true in this situation. 20-minute ordeal of them trying to get me back. You know, get me back on earth, because I was so far gone at that point. But they brought me back, and I'm here today. Thankful to all the nurses at Northside, because they truly saved my life. And I'm I'm happy about that because they were really great to me at Northside. Rylan was there. He was able to see the birth of his brother. He was able to hold him, you know, just a few minutes after Rylan was born. So after the whole ordeal, getting the blood transfusion, another nurse came in to give Rylan his first bath. After the bath, they ended up taking Rylan up to the baby unit because they wanted to make sure that he was really okay for being born at 36 weeks. And they noticed that he was breathing a little funny, so they wanted to go and really check him out. Rylan was in the bed with me, eating my lunch, basically. I didn't feel like eating at that point. Rylan was able to eat. Like I said, we started this process about 3 or 4 in the morning, so he didn't get a chance to go to school, and he hadn't had breakfast yet, so I know my baby was starving. And I think he probably had like a little snack, like something from the vending machine, so I was happy to let him eat, you know, my lunch. PM, they found me a room, so we all moved into the new room, and a little time later, they brought down Rylan, and we enjoyed a lot of time with him. My brother even came to see Rye. I just want to say, for anybody out there that went through a traumatic birth, that I read this great article that said you have to mourn for the birth that you didn't get to experience and enjoy the birth that you had. No matter how traumatic this birth experience was for me, it was so beautiful because I brought another little boy into this world, and that's the most beautiful thing in life. Even though, you know, I spent a lot of days crying about this birth, not feeling like the best mother, feeling like a failure for many different things, from, you know, not being able to push him out, having to take him back to an extended stay, not being able to breastfeed and having to formula feed. You know, all of those things that people make you feel guilty about as a mother. I got to the point where I realized that I wasn't going to let those things affect how I felt about my motherhood. This is my journey. It's uniquely mine. But that is pretty much my labor and delivery story. I know this video might be quite long, so if you stayed through the end, I really appreciate it. For watching my video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I appreciate you all out there that are subscribing to my channel and showing me so much support. I really do appreciate it. So I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.